Let's check it out, shall we? Welcome into Rob Schmitt Tonight. I'm Bob Brooks. Rob obviously has the night off. Let's talk about this. The new battle cry for Democrats this week, illegal immigrants. Well, not really new. You already know they want to flood the country and have with as many as they can for votes. But now the left, they are up in arms for Haitians mostly, some Syrians as well, who fell under what is called temporary protected status, or TPS. The Supreme Court ruled yesterday in favor of the administration, which has to continue with its plan to strip TPS status from about 350,000 Haitians, roughly 6,000 Syrians. Basically what happened in the 90s, TPS was created to provide humanitarian relief to people from countries affected by war, natural disasters, other catastrophes. Keyword, temporary. They were only supposed to get status for 18 months, and then it was subject to extensions, and in many cases it was. But then came Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, the New Age Democrats who wanted to and did flood our country with millions of illegals. They abused TPS just like they have abused our entire immigration system, which in many cases has led to death and destruction for so many Americans and their families. So now Democrats, they're going to lose future voters maybe because these people are subject to being deported. In the left, they are angry, as they usually are. So let's play some clips of that.
This was an immoral, unjust, illegal, in my opinion, decision from this MAGA right Supreme Court.
Got news for her. Those justices going to be there a while. That was Pramila Jayapal of the state of Washington. Look, it's the usual suspects complaining about this. We have some more, like Zohran Mamdani, the new president of all Democrats. Here he was.
To have people who frankly taught the world about freedom have their own freedom be put in jeopardy by the actions of a Supreme Court and a federal administration, it is not only cruel, it's something that we will not ever accept.
We also have some liberals doing vigils for Haitians, like in Springfield, Ohio, where President Trump famously pointed out that that's where they were eating the wildlife in that area, as well as the pets. And of course, the left-wing media, they're an extension of the Democrat Party. They reacted as well. Here's some of that.
Supreme Court making a mockery of the words emblazoned on the Statue of Liberty. Quote, give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free.
Look, every time the left goes to bat for illegals, I always wonder how these people just leave out the fact that so many Americans have been killed because of reckless immigration policies. They just ignore it. And by ignoring that, you insult the families of those who have been raped, or worse, they have been murdered, like Rachel Morin, like Laken Riley, like Sheridan Gorman, like Jocelyn Ungari. They ignore that fact every time. And to them, having a border is just flat out wrong. They don't even want one. There are going to be sitting members of Congress soon who believe having a border, having police, prisons, deportations is fundamentally wrong. That person is Daria Liza Avila Chevalier, who is most likely going to win in November because she won her primary in New York's 13th district. That is a blue district. She put all of that in multiple tweets. Here is just one of them that she has gone on to delete. A world without borders, just like a world without prisons or police, is possible, necessary, and the only moral way forward. The people got to wake up. Americans, many of them are voting for people like that. That woman is going to be in Congress. Now back to TPS, because here's the real story. It has been grossly abused. 91% of Haiti TPS beneficiaries, they were illegally paroled into the country, entered the country without inspection, provided the U.S. government with little or no information at all about the nature of their entry into our country. See, we don't even know who most of these people really are. That's not how immigration is supposed to work, everybody. And how did they get here? What do you think? Over 280,000, or approximately 85% of the total Haitian TPS population, they were added or arrived during the Joe Biden-Kamala Harris administration. So there you have it. Democrats turned TPS into another mockery. Oh, key word. It's supposed to be temporary, as I said. Here's Tom Homan on that.
President Trump has the guts to follow the law. So temporary means temporary. When the condition of that country gets better, they need to go home. There are millions of people standing in line want to be a part of the greatest nation on earth. And that goes back to my early point. People say, why you arrest them if they're not criminally under 10 years? Because they cheated the system.
That's right, they did. And that's the administration, what they have determined. TPS for them, no longer required. And here I want to point this out as well because it is so absurd. Back in 2018, when President Trump called out Haiti as a horribly run country, a bunch of rich people, a bunch of famous people, they all got on this bandwagon. Haiti is already great T-shirts. Yay for Haiti. They love it then, right? Who thinks up that stuff? Conan O'Brien, you see him there. He even took a vacation, went swimming in some tropical water. Then yesterday, a reporter actually asked Stephen Miller after the ruling came down if Haiti was safe for people to be there. Well, clearly, according to those elitists, it was. Conan is on the beach having a great time. What happened, right? Here was that exchange.
The administration consider Haiti a safe country?
For Haitians, absolutely. Haitians live in Haiti. It's not our position that Haitians should leave Haiti. I mean, it'd be crazy for us to say that Haitians couldn't live in Haiti. It's their country. Of course Haitians should live in Haiti. There's no viable asylum, or use a technical term here, CAT claim or withholding claim for any Haitian seeking relief from going back to Haiti, to their homeland. The fact that there might be pockets of Haiti where there's higher crime rates, guess what? There's pockets of Chicago with crime rates just as high.
Stephen Miller, well said. You see, and everyone knows this, we talk about it always, Democrats want illegal immigration for votes because their party has, for many Americans, become toxic. They don't vote Democrat anymore, so they need a new base, hence why they do what they do. Trump took it to court. He won. That is a promise made, a promise kept by Donald Trump. Let's talk about it. John Torres, former acting director of ICE, and Art Del Cueto, a veteran of the Border Patrol. Gentlemen, pleasure to have you both on. Art, going to start with you. Just your reaction to this from the Supreme Court, and then what it means next here for the administration and what happens to these TPS recipients that all came here under Joe Biden.
Look, hey, I'm happy about the decision. Obviously, temporarily means temporarily, right? And if your country's doing better, you're able to go. They should be happy that their country's doing better and they're able to go back. But I think moving forward, it shows that, we have an administration that we're going to go by the rule of law. That's what it comes down to. Everybody wants to follow the law. And I will say this, look, illegal is not a race. So this has nothing to do with race. People need to get off of that. And at the same time, I think moving forward, we need to start looking at other avenues that were exploded and exploited during the Biden administration by a lot of individuals claiming different asylums or whatever else they decided to claim in order to come into the United States. So I don't think it ends here. We need to start further investigating everyone else's claims.
Yeah, the left Democrats, they always cry race. John, I don't think this has anything to do with race. This is purely just having normal immigration and getting back to that. It's time for normalcy when it comes to that.
Yeah, 100%. Really what we're seeing here is the left and the open border advocates have been exploiting a loophole for a long time here. And you saw the numbers explode under the Biden administration when they realized that you could just let people in. In fact, they were creating apps, the CBP-1 app, to make it as easy as possible for people to apply for asylum. But the reality is nearly 90% of the people that apply for asylum are denied asylum and ordered deported from the United States. And what happens at that point is that ICE would then have to go find them and arrest them and send them out of their country. But you see what's happening on the left. Okay, so you let them in so they don't get asylum. Let's defund ICE. Let's not let ICE do their job. And ultimately, you have open borders and people are here.
Which is what they want for votes for their party. Art, we got more reaction from the legacy media. So we got somebody saying that we're all going to die because of this. I kid you not. Here, let's play this.
Break down for me just how devastating all of this is about to be.
Very devastating, and I hope we stop talking about it as the Trump administration won or someone won, because right now America lost. There are a lot of people who are going to die and suffer because of the account of this. So I wish this court was more of a court of equity than they say they were a court of policy right now.
Yeah, he goes on to say, healthcare systems are going to crash, Art, because Haitian people work there and Americans, everyone's going to start dying. That's a ridiculous reaction. That is not going to happen here. Your thoughts about that?
Somebody needs to ask these individuals, what have they done for legal immigration? What have they done for to actually help out the system? And you know, they're great at helping out illegal immigration. They're great at helping out the cartels that are smuggling. They're here talking about people who are going to die. Where were they when the borders were completely open? The cartels kept on bringing in methamphetamine, fentanyl, heroin, and everyone was coming into the country. And we had the gotaways, not knowing what their background was, causing deaths to American citizens. Where were they screaming then? Let me tell you, I've been on this border my whole life, aside from working as a federal agent on that line. And I have seen true evil cross our borders. The evil that has come across the borders, especially during the Biden administration, was so bad that we need to dumbify it, because if we don't, the American public wouldn't even believe it. Where were those people at when that was happening at our nation's borders?
All great points, and that should be brought up time and time again. Honestly, we should never let that go, because so many people have been killed. Their families are now never going to be the same, ruined because of what happened. John, also want to point this out after the big decision that the U.S. Catholic bishops, they have released a statement, okay, and it reads this: "We as a nation cannot turn a blind eye to such an injustice. My brother bishops and I also continue to call upon Congress to act to meet this moment with the moral fortitude that is so desperately needed." What do you think of the U.S. Catholic bishops weighing into this one, especially with a statement like that?
Yeah, sadly, it's no surprise to me. Over the course of my career, I've met with them several times. And every single time they came into my office, especially when I was running ICE, they asked for the same thing: to stop deportations, to let people stay here, whether they were here legally or illegally. And they were pushing to let basically everyone come in and be here as open border advocates. And so it's easy for them to say, let everyone in, this is inhumane and unjust. But the reality is they're pushing for a political agenda, sadly, just like the left is doing.
Yeah, they are. Look, and I'm Catholic, disagree with a lot of what is said here. But you know, you're allowed to do that, contrary to thought. John, Torres, Art Del Cueto, gotta leave it there. Appreciate you both coming on.
Thank you. Have a good weekend.
You as well. All right, President Trump ramping up the pressure, demanding the Senate pass the Save America Act to secure our elections. But we have rhinos, Republicans in name only, one that is refusing to budge. I'm going to tell you who it is and what's being done to actually get it passed, right? 80-20 issue, even more, actually. Congressman Greg Steube, he's going to react with us next. See you soon.
Federal agencies urge every family to have an emergency radio. During any disaster, electrical power may get cut. The emergency radio gives you the vital information you need. Newsmax wants you to have the Dynamo Emergency Band Radio. It doesn't need batteries and works in any emergencies. It retails for $30. You can get it with the free offer. Call or go online and get the emergency radio today. Your life may depend on it.
Doctors say having a medical emergency kit is like having an urgent care and pharmacy at home. Let me bring in Dr. McCullough to explain more.
Most people know when they're getting sick, but waiting to see a doctor is often too late.
So the key is having medicines before you need them.
Yes, and it includes doctor-prescribed medicines to treat common and serious issues like generic Z-Pak, amoxicillin, antibiotics, antivirals for flu, pneumonia, strep, ear and sinus infections, UTIs, and more.
So it is like having an urgent care at home.
Exactly. No waiting, no pharmacy, no copays. You feel better faster and avoid serious complications and hospitalizations.
How do you know what to take?
Just match your symptoms to the doctor-written guide or schedule a quick telehealth call.
Great advice. I understand ordering is fast online, and we've put the website and $45 off code on the screen. Thank you, doctor.
Visit urgentcarekit.com/news, promo code news.
If they tell you I'm a traitor, it's the truth. I betrayed my country. Did I cause harm? Yes. I sacrificed people. I deserve my fate. If I had to do it again, I wouldn't hesitate.
we have to pass the Save America Act to protect our sacred American elections. We have to fight for everything. Nothing comes easy. Nothing. All voters must show photo ID. Not so bad, right? All voters must provide proof of citizenship. Is that so hard? Well, you're fighting the Democrats and a few Republicans who are doing a tremendous disservice to this country.
I agree, Mr. President. Shouldn't be hard, but it is. President Trump urging the Senate to pass the Save America Act, a common sense voter ID law that 80% or more of Americans support. Almost 100% of Republicans do. But despite that fact, Democrats and a handful of Republicans blocking the bill. One of those Republicans is outgoing North Carolina Senator Thom Tillis, who has thought of pretty much any excuse not to get it passed. Take a look.
We simply don't have the votes, and the Save America Act will not be implemented in time for this election. Anybody that knows anything about election law understands it's an unfunded mandate that has $0 for implementation. So I would ask anybody who actually understands how to pass laws, implement them, and have them in place at the level that they need to be to ensure the integrity of elections, how absurd is it to think that could be done by November?
Just talk about uninspiring. Just so uninspiring right there. In a response, Trump canceled his plans to sign a major housing bill earlier this week until Congress passes the Save America Act. Conservative members are also grinding the House agenda to a halt, refusing to take up any bills from the Senate. Florida Congressman Greg Steube joins us now. Congressman, it's a pleasure.
Hey, good to see you.
Yeah, your thoughts, especially on what Thom Tillis. Give me your reaction to that one.
Well, I mean, what's amazing is, let's just take a step back. The American people gave the Republicans the House, the Senate, and the White House. And we cannot pass a bill that simply states that when you go and vote in our elections, you have to show an ID and you have to be a citizen of our country. Again, you said it's an 80% issue. It's even like 78% of Democrats think there should be voter ID because they don't want fraud in our elections. They want to know that the people they are electing, regardless of the party affiliation, are the people that got voted in by citizens of our country that have the right to vote. And you have Republican United States senators who are standing in the way of that. We have passed some version of the SAVE Act twice in the House. It sits languishing in the Senate. You heard the clips from the president, how much he's talked about how important this is to him, to the American people, and the American people who elected the Republicans with the House, the Senate, and the White House. And we can't show up and do those things because we have a handful of senators in the Senate that are refusing to vote for it.
Talk about the fact that President Trump has kept the pressure on for this. And also, we know he met with the House Speaker yesterday. Anything come out of that? I know they were kicking around parts of it in reconciliation. Can you speak to that?
Well, I mean, after their meeting, he said that, Republicans should vote for the rules. Well, the rules that they've been holding up have been appropriations bills that we all know we're going to be doing a CR in September. You're not going to be able to pass all these appropriations bills. Even if you pass them in the House, the Senate's not doing it. So you've got a lot of Republicans, conservative Republicans, that are frustrated that the Senate is failing to act on the things that the House and the president view as important. So next week will be very interesting. The Senate left for 2 weeks after refusing to vote on the SAVE Act. There's a number of senators that feel like they can just leave town and not do the things the American people have asked them to do. So next week's going to be very interesting in the House.
Do you think, how do I want to word this, that some of the senators don't maybe realize how big of an issue this is for the American people, especially when you hear Thom Tillis saying something to the degree of what he did and, oh, well, it's not funded. We're not going to have enough time. Like, people are fired up about this. I would like to see them be fired up about this.
Well, and those are all lies. I mean, why do you need money behind requiring people to show voter ID? Right here in the great state of Florida, we require people to show ID to vote. You have to be a citizen to register in our votes or in our elections. And so it's not hard to do. Apparently, it's only hard for Democratic states like California and New York. So there's no money that's needed because you just have to do your job and ensure that the people that are allowed to vote are required to vote. And it's just kind of interesting, all of these reasons why, there's not enough time. Well, there's not enough time because for 2 years, the Senate has refused to take action. And as we get closer to the election, the House is fed up with the fact that the Senate is failing to move these great conservative bills. I mean, this is just one of many examples. We've passed for years my No Men and Women Sports Bill. Again, another great piece of legislation that 78% of Americans support. It's dead and dying in the Senate because John Thune will not nuke the filibuster and pass good conservative pieces of legislation.
Congressman, last thing. Got to go through this quick. Switch gears. This housing bill, it hasn't gone through yet. I've been looking through some of the details. Really what it does is kind of pours in a ton of money to affordable housing units, public housing, turning long-term Section 8 housing, things like that. Can you give me your thoughts on this?
I voted against it. It's a $200 million creation of a new federal program. We're $39 trillion in debt. Why would Republicans create a new federal program at $200 million? It doesn't prevent illegal immigrants from taking advantage of those $200 million. It doesn't prevent the Chinese Communist Party, the Russians, the Iranians from investing in property in the United States, only businesses in the United States. There's a whole litany list of problems with the bill, which is why myself and 35 conservative Republicans voted against it in the House.
Congressman Greg Steube, sir, it's a pleasure. Thanks for coming on.
Good to see you. Anytime.
Okay, coming up, billionaire Leon Black grilled by the House Oversight Committee on Capitol Hill over his ties to Epstein, but refused to answer some questions, prompting new subpoenas. He even walked out of the meeting. So why did he do it? Going to give you the explosive details. That is next. Stick with us.
Tonight's Newsmax lineup is brought to you by Crown Atlantic. Protect what matters most with fast, affordable life insurance. Visit lifeforless.com.
There are only a few men I'd trust with my life. Two of them built this wallet. I've known the guys behind Proof for nearly 20 years, and we've been through hell and back together. When they told me they were building the wallet, I just said, bill me now, I'm in. This isn't some fashion piece. This isn't just some trend. These wallets are a direct reflection of the kind of men who built it. It's built to last, built to function, and designed to carry everything you need and more. If anything happens to it, they'll take care of it. No questions, no fine print. If you knew the guys who created this wallet, you wouldn't carry anything else. Go check them out, because they built this thing right.
Yeah. 2 p.m. still works great. We'll put our best guy on the job.
You said you were the best guy.
Also the sales guy.
You should check out Capitus. You can get a fast business loan and hire some help.
Customer service, please hold. Loans are complicated.
Not with Capitus. It's easy to apply, and there are no hidden fees.
I got this.
Stop waiting, start growing, get the funding you need at Capitus.com. You should probably call HR.
You're looking at HR.
Artificial intelligence is transforming healthcare. This breakthrough technology is empowering researchers to discover new treatments and cures. AI is helping us manufacture smarter medical devices, and it's going to extend and improve the quality of our lives. AI is transformative, and it can be life-saving. China wants to dominate AI and surpass the U.S. in modernizing healthcare. America must lead. America must innovate. America must win. Let's protect our competitive edge.
Did you know about 1 in 3 people with plaque psoriasis may also develop psoriatic arthritis? With fewer symptoms from moderate to severe plaque psoriasis, where would you go? Imagine being a million miles away. With Tremfya, clearer skin is possible. And for adults with active psoriatic arthritis, Tremfya goes beyond the skin. Less joint pain, stiffness, and swelling is possible. And Tremfya is the first and only treatment of its kind proven to help stop further joint damage. Serious allergic reactions, increased risk of infections, or lower ability to fight them, and liver problems may occur. Before treatment, get checked for infections and TB. Tell your doctor if you have an infection, flu-like symptoms, or need a vaccine. Imagine being a million miles away. Ask your doctor about Tremfya.
As a neurologist, my patients are often concerned with age-related memory decline. I recommend Cunol Brain Health with 2 powerful, high-absorption ingredients clinically shown to improve memory, focus, attention, and more. Cunol, the brand I trust.
Pop up the volume.
Go ahead. Crank the volume. We got you. USPS has increased daily package processing capacity by 46% in the past 5 years. And with USPS Ground Advantage, your packages stay in our secure network, dock to door, nationwide. For full visibility, near real-time tracking, affordable pricing, for peace of mind. USPS Ground Advantage.
Okay, welcome back in. The House Oversight Committee interviewing billionaire, former CEO and chairman of Apollo Global Management, Leon Black, as part of its ongoing investigation into Epstein. The questioning taking place behind closed doors. Now, Black, who was a major client of Epstein for years, appearing frequently in the Epstein files, but denying any wrongdoing or knowledge of Epstein's crimes. Now, the House Oversight Committee pressing Black on paying Epstein at least $170 million for tax and estate planning advice. Now, Black reportedly telling the committee that he actually, that money that he paid Epstein for was for legitimate services and bona fide advice. Meantime, James Comer issuing 2 more subpoenas to Leon Black. This came after Black refused to answer questions regarding non-disclosure agreements signed with women who were tied to Epstein. Here's the congressman.
This is a result of refusing to answer specific questions about the NDAs and the terms. We believe that information is vital to our investigation. We want to know, was Jeffrey Epstein involved in the NDAs? Was he involved in writing?
So Leon Black actually walked out of the hearing in response. A Senate Finance Committee probe led by Democrat Ron Wyden suggested that Black may have used Epstein as a middleman to pay hush money payments, management legal settlements, and NDAs with women. Leon Black's attorney has denied all of this. Take a look.
This was nothing more than a planned political stunt. Mr. Epstein had no involvement with any NDAs, whether they exist or not. He was never blackmailed by Epstein, and Mr. Black had no knowledge of any of Mr. Epstein's heinous conduct.
Joining us now, the former attorney of the Northern District of Alabama, Jay Town, along with Abel Maldonado, former Lieutenant Governor of California. Gentlemen, always a pleasure to talk to both of you. Jay, going to start with you. Leon Black now. He's the second major person to interview in front of the House Oversight Committee over Epstein. Bill Gates, he is the other, who alluded to Epstein blackmailing him. Black, though, want to point this out, he cut ties with Epstein back in 2018. He also apparently telling the committee he has been subject of baseless allegations and conspiracy theories about Epstein, but he was forced to resign from Apollo Group. That is 2021 over all of this. So, Jay, I want to get your take on kind of what went down on Capitol Hill with Leon Black today.
Well, it's been, I mean, look, we don't see bipartisan resolution very often, but this committee led by Chairman Comer, they all agree that they need to subpoena Leon Black. And the difference is, just for folks at home, I know you know, but the understanding is that if somebody appears voluntarily or for a certain purpose, and they're asked questions that they refuse to answer, let's say about a non-disclosure agreement, those NDAs can be breached or pierced, rather, if there is a subpoena from a legitimate government body, which would be this committee. So the questions that he refused to answer and walked out on, those are answers that I think this committee deserves to know. Over $150 million paid to Jeffrey Epstein for very little services, if you really look into the files, and Mr. Leon Black.
Yeah, Jay, that's the thing that stood out to me. It's the amount of money. Abel, Democrats, want to get to their reaction and then get your take on all this.
Leon Black was arrogant, he was smug, he refused to answer the questions, but at the same time was emphasizing how he was being transparent because this was voluntary. But when pressed on critical questions about his own sexual abuse and the allegations against him and non-disclosure agreements, he absolutely refused to answer these questions. Okay, you heard him. Your take.
Well, all I can say is that, as Jay stated, that where do you get unity in a bipartisan committee in Washington? And to have Chairman Comer obviously come out and say he wants to know who wrote the NDAs. Was Epstein involved in writing the NDAs? Did he pay people to get involved in an NDA? There's a lot of questions that need to be asked. But to the point that Jay made, over $150 million, you have to ask yourself, I mean, what service did Epstein provide to Leon Black for that kind of money? It's a simple question, Bob, and it needs to be answered.
It does. It raises eyebrows, I think, for all of us and everyone watching. That's what is curious, is the amount of money. Let's switch gears. Want to talk about California. We had some big news from out there today. So the judge in the Palisades arson case Declaring a mistrial after jurors, they could not reach a verdict. 10 of the 12 jurors finding the suspect not guilty. That is 30-year-old Uber driver Jonathan Rinderknecht. He was accused of starting the fire in January 2025. Take a listen. One of the jurors was outside of the courtroom today, did an interview.
I personally feel like, I'm not saying, I don't think there was enough evidence to say he started the first fire, but say he did, I don't see why everybody else's negligence of doing things incorrectly, where he needs to be responsible for the whole Palisades. Shouldn't the firemen and shouldn't they have known? I think it's such a waste of our American dollars.
Now, the U.S. attorney out there, Jay, says he's going to try this again. Your take on how 10 to 12 here?
Yeah, this was not even a close jury room, actually. There's two jurors that wanted to vote to convict and the other 10 to acquit. But look, as a career prosecutor, I can tell you that every case does have its pitfalls. In this case, this really has Karen Bass in the county of LA's fingerprints all over it because they were negligent in the way that they handled the fire and putting it out initially so that it wouldn't get worse, and even draining the basins that would have maybe prevented any massive spread to begin with. So and he called 911 16 times. That being said, I do think cases get better the second time around. So I do think when the prosecutors go back to court, they will know where the pitfalls are and they will be able to counter them. That juror that spoke, I don't know how that juror got on the jury, frankly, that they didn't evoke a lot of confidence into any sort of intellectual curiosity to me.
Yeah, Abel, we all know that for so many people, things are never going to be the same for them after this here. Your thoughts, it's your home state.
My home state, and I listened to the jurors, and as Jay stated, 10 people didn't agree. I mean, 10 people, that's a lot of people on a jury of 12. But I thought from what I read, Bob, I thought it was a slam dunk on this guy. This guy was mad at the world. I mean, he drove a person that night. She said it was the scariest Uber ride she's ever been on. This guy was not looking good. And there was a fire lit up on January 1st. And here's the kicker, Bob. The fire that started Pacific Palisades was 7 days later. So the fire was started on the 1st. That was shut down, smoldering underneath. You would think that the county fire, Karen Bass, the politicians of LA would continue to monitor this. They didn't. This fire took off, and the rest is history. We saw what happened. It's just, no water in the fire hydrants, Bob. A fire engine pulls up 2026 in LA to a fire hydrant. There's no water in it. There's a lot more. And the juror stated it. This is the ineptness of government, local government, state government in LA, and it needs to be looked at, from the bottom up. Spencer Pratt talked about this. He lost his house over this.
Many people did. People
there's
died.
A lot to look at this. People died. Exactly, Bob.
Big time out there. Yeah. All right. We've got to leave it there. J-Town, Abel Maldonado, I always appreciate it. Good to see you both.
Thank you, Bob.
Thanks.
All right, coming up, Dr. Michael Savage joins us after the break with a fiery message to Republicans that he says are blaming Jews for all of their problems. Doc, see you in a minute.
Some wireless companies say that they stand for something. What exactly do they stand for, and why won't they say it out loud? Let me tell you what Patriot Mobile stands for. They stand for the lives of the unborn. They stand for the Second Amendment and the right to protect yourself and your family. They stand for our veterans and first responders who sacrifice so much for our freedom. Make the switch to Patriot Mobile today and support a company that doesn't just say they stand for something, but one that stands for the things that matter the most.
Listen, were you forced into getting a solar contract and now you just don't want it anymore? Maybe the solar company misled you. Or is your solar contract buried with hidden fees? Are you not saving the amount of money you thought you would on your energy costs? Don't worry. At the Solar Exit Hotline, we can help you cancel your solar contract, even if the panels are already installed. Our experienced legal team will review your contract and help you cancel it, possibly saving you thousands of dollars. You gotta call right now for complete details. So listen, if you're not happy with your solar contract for any reason, we are here to help you cancel it. Call the Solar Exit Hotline now for immediate options to help you exit your solar contract. This call is 100% free. Call 800-413-5279. Again, that's 800-413-5279. Call us right now.
Being prepared is vital.
It's better to have these devices and not need them than the alternative.
And I hope you'll add a LifeVac to your home to protect your family in a choking emergency. It's the only device of its kind FDA authorized.
The LifeVac is the #1 choking rescue device in the country.
With thousands of lives saved and the choice of first responders nationwide, the LifeVac is a must-have for everyone.
Go to lifevac.net or call 877-543-3822.
My dad has never been in better shape. He had a stroke and passed away. He had a life insurance policy. Ethos.com. In 10 minutes, you can be covered with life insurance.
Check your price today at ethos.com.
Just in time for our country's big celebration, the Kids Guide to America's 250th birthday is here, and it's free. Give your kids this epic story of freedom, heroes, and fireworks. Get it at freeusagift.com. That's freeusagift.com.
Mike Hammond of Signal Relief. We've helped nearly 700,000 feel relief in their back, shoulders, and knees with our technology. But for many of us, it's our feet that hurt. And when they hurt, our walks get shorter, activities are skipped, and the moments we love start slipping away. That's why we created the Signal Step, a patent-pending insole built using the same proven technology people already trust from Signal Relief. Signal uses no drugs. There's nothing on the market like it. It's relief without the side effects. It's reusable, fits virtually into any shoe, and in a recent study, over 85% felt relief, and it comes with a money-back guarantee. So what are you waiting for? Feel relief with every step. If you're hurting, go to signalstep.com and get relief today.
Okay, welcome back in. We know that the left has an anti-Semitism problem. They go out in the streets screaming for the death of Jews and in support of terrorist groups like Hamas, Hezbollah, Picket. You know, they're openly electing terror sympathizers across the board, making AIPAC funding and prior votes on Israel the center focus of incumbents in primaries. Legendary radio host Dr. Michael Savage, who hosts Savage Nation Sundays, 8 p.m. Eastern Time on Newsmax, says it's always been obvious the left hates Israel, but he is sounding the alarm with what he's actually been noticing happening on the right, going as far to say the GOP could have an outright Nazi problem.
The rise of the Islamic propaganda machine in America. We've all heard of AIPAC, and many on the right have taken that bait and said, all the problems in America, all the problems in the world are because of AIPAC, Zionists, and Jews. I've known the left has hated the state of Israel for my entire life. That's a given. But I really didn't expect the MAGA movement to be infested by the same psychosis. I didn't know what percentage of the conservative movement might be outright Nazi. They're all like, AIPAC. They don't realize that they're actually mouthpieces for Iran-PAC.
Dr. Savage joins us now. Doc, what's going on here?
Well, thanks for having me, Bob. It's 1930s Germany all over again. We learned from Goebbels, who worked for Adolf Hitler, about the big lie, which is that if you repeat a lie often enough, it becomes the truth. So where did this lie begin, this mass hysteria that Israel is committing genocide? Let's start with that one. In Israel. Well, it came from the UN, didn't it? No, it didn't come from the UN. It came from a UN independent international commission, which does not speak for the UN, by the way. I looked into it. It's a 3-person committee of America haters, white haters, and Israel haters. Navi Pillay, South Africa. Chair Milun Kothari, India. Chris Sidoti, Australia. By the way, one of them has a husband who is in prison on terrorism charges. So this is the beginning of the big lie. Israel's committing genocide from this 3-person commission. And what happened is it's now snowballed because of people in America who are repeating this big lie. I don't even want to mention their names anymore. They nauseate me. They disgust me. One of them used to be a rational human being. He's become a little SS officer. It is sickening to see that Goebbels' big lie theory and mass hysteria has now taken control of the narrative based upon the lies of this three-person commission. So all the problems in the world caused by who? Why, again, Zionists and then Jews. You mean the problem between India and Pakistan? Yeah, Zionism. Fight between Ukraine and Russia? Yeah, Zionism and Jews. This is crazy. It's insanity. Most of these people don't even understand that their mind has been infested with the big lie. Now, again, as you said earlier, we know the left always hated Israel.
Right.
The communists, the socialists, the left always hated the state of Israel. They've always opposed Israel and the United States and the UN going back 50 years. I've watched it. But now you see MAGAites, people in MAGA joining the parade because of people like who? Tucker Carlson, we can name the names, putting out things that are so ridiculous, they're frightening because it's going to lead not only to delegitimizing Israel, which it already has, but it's delegitimizing or dehumanizing Jewish people in general, which is leading to assaults upon Jewish people the same way it did in Germany in the 1930s. It's a shocking thing to see how fast it has spread, especially in New York City, which has the largest Jewish population in America. Here's another little tiny example. We keep hearing people online saying to me, Mike, how come all the Jews in New York voted for Mamdani, who's a Muslim communist who hates Jews? I said, first of all, only 30% of Jews in New York voted for Mamdani. 70% didn't. They didn't know that. The same people don't even understand that Israel is a multi-ethnic state. Do they understand anything about the black Jews of Ethiopia, the Falashas who were rescued out of Africa in the 1950s by Israel? Nothing. They know no history.
Doc, I feel like, especially when you're talking about the right and some of the people falling into this trap, younger men, they got their own shortcomings looking for a scapegoat. And for some reason, they're gravitating down this thread, this anti-Semitic thread for some reason, and they are. And then that's kind of the way I see this.
Yeah, but they're being fed by Tucker and company. In my analysis, you got Candace Owens. What are they, the master race all of a sudden? Nick Fuentes is the master race. He's half Hispanic and half white.
Yeah, I don't get it. I don't get the appeal that you see those people.
Let's talk about race. They're the master. Well, they're espousing Hitler's philosophy. They're
people,
like the master race.
Especially young people gravitate towards those kind of characters. I see them and I'm like, that's who you look up to?
Well,
really?
Yeah, when you have
it's kind
people,
of embarrassing.
Young people who can't get ahead in society, they want to blame someone. So for a while, they had names for them. Then all of a sudden they became Zionists. Then it became Jews. This is just what happened in Germany. No one started attacking Jews in Germany right off the bat when Hitler rose. They started by delegitimizing or dehumanizing Jewish people. Eventually, it led to the death camps. And I have had enough of this garbage from Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens and Nick Fuentes. Somebody has to stop them. And I'm starting it. Others have said enough is enough from these petty little SS officers. Enough is enough, Bob.
Doc,
we have to stand up. I'm sorry to yell, but I have to say this.
Not at all.
The only way for evil to prevail is for enough good men to say nothing. It's time for good people to say something.
We appreciate you coming on and saying that. And don't ever apologize for getting fired up, especially over something like this, man. It's always a pleasure. Thank you.
Not a joking matter. Horrible.
All right, coming up, Democrats don't just hate President Trump. They hate themselves. You already know that. They're embarrassed of themselves as well, and to be Americans, like Larry David. We're going to talk about him coming up and what's in the news from the left.
I was embarrassed to be an American.
Think you need a new roof? Think again. Most roofing companies only make money one way, by selling you a new roof. But what if your roof isn't worn out, just dried out? And with just a little love, you could put off an expensive roof replacement for up to 15 years, at a fraction of the cost of a new roof. Roofmax is a scientifically engineered restoration formula that brings your shingle life back to new. Scan the code and get a free roof tune-up with your Roofmax restoration.
Like a relentless weed, moderate to severe Crohn's disease or ulcerative colitis symptoms can keep coming back.
Break away to what's possible with Tremfya.
The only IL-23 blocker for Crohn's and UC to offer self-administration from the start.
Tremfya can help with symptom relief as early as 4 weeks, remission at 12 weeks, 1 year, and 2 years.
Some had visible repair of their intestinal lining. Serious allergic reactions, increased risk of infections or lower ability to fight them, and liver problems may occur. Before treatment, get checked for infections and TB. Tell your doctor if you have an infection, flu-like symptoms, or need a vaccine. Break away with Tremfya.
Backed by over 15 years of clinical research. Ask your doctor about Tremfya today.
Stop. Check this out. Our most advanced performance frame, Talon, is out. It's a bestseller. We just got it back in stock, and I want to show you a little bit about it. These come with our signature lost and broken protection, and you can try them risk-free for 30 days. Check them out at shadyrays.com.
I can't change my AMD diagnosis, but my eye doctor and I can change what I do about it with a plan that includes the most advanced PreserVision formula yet.
Introducing new PreserVision AREDS 3. A unique vitamin B complex is combined with the clinically proven AREDS 2 nutrients recommended to help reduce the risk of moderate to advanced AMD progression. A new triple action formula to help support macular health, made to protect, nourish, and boost.
For me, it's got to be 3.
New PreserVision AREDS 3.
Before you agree, you should understand how dangerous this is.
What's the mission?
You're hunting a predator. It's the kill shot. It comes for you.
I wouldn't miss it for anything.
Whatever it takes. Understand?
Doctors recommend turmeric more than any other supplement for joint health. I trust Cunol Ultra High Absorption Turmeric, made with the #1 doctor-recommended form of turmeric, clinically tested to support joint health and a healthy inflammation response. Cunol, the brand I trust.
Okay, welcome back in. Time now for news from the left. Have you ever started to notice that maybe liberals seem to hate just about everything? That's obvious, right? Minus mail-in ballots, welfare, criminals, and illegal aliens. The left despises just about everything else. They hate President Trump most of all, of course, because they have incurable cases of TDS. They hate successful people like billionaires. They hate common sense like voter ID. White liberals even hate the color of their own skin. Trump can't renovate the Lincoln Memorial reflecting pool, something that should be nonpartisan, without leftists rooting for it to fail. They're cheering on algae. That is what it's come to. Trump, he hosts a historic UFC Freedom 250 event at the White House. Elite Hollywood Democrats like Larry David, they have this to say about it.
It was a travesty, yeah. What else can you say about it? It was embarrassing. I was embarrassed to be an American.
Why? I don't know. Sport, competition, fighting. By the way, Larry David, reportedly worth around $400 million. America has treated him very well. Maybe he shouldn't be so embarrassed, right? He's had a great run. Over on The View, fellow multi-millionaire celebrities Joy Behar, Sunny Hostin, both agree with Larry David. They are also apparently embarrassed by our country now.
I'm very good friends with Larry David, and so I'm not going to... I think he's right in many ways.
Our standing in the world because of this president has dropped, and that is just a fact. I am embarrassed by Donald Trump, and I am absolutely embarrassed by what happened on the White House lawn. I thought it was trashy.
I'm embarrassed for this country, the way he's been treating immigrants. And, of course, Larry is embarrassed to be an American. In that way, we should all be.
I'm embarrassed of them. For the TV industry, they stink it up every day. Left so Trump deranged, Politico reports Democrats grapple uncomfortably with World Cup success. Riding the triumph of World Cup's first 2 weeks, boasting the U.S.'s global reputation with sold-out stadiums and few logistical complaints, has forced Democrats who had criticized President Donald Trump's role in preparations to grudgingly reconsider. Can you imagine that? The Democrats, they are literally rooting for the World Cup to fail, so it makes the U.S. and Trump look bad on the world stage. They are sick people. None of this surprises you, right? Doesn't me. Chris Kohls, he is the host of the Mr. Reagan podcast. He joins us now. Chris, good to see you.
Oh, great to see you.
Yeah, I don't think I'm stating anything anyone is surprised by, but, you know, they're going to keep doing it as long as he's in office here. Your thoughts?
Yeah, look, I mean, Larry David is embarrassed. It's a travesty, he says. God forbid we have any fun in this country. Look, I understand what he's trying to say here, right? He's trying to say, oh, you know, the White House is supposed to be dignified. We're not supposed to have these like raucous events or something like that. But maybe do a little reading of history. Look into Teddy Roosevelt. You know, the White House hasn't always just been, you know, stuffy ceremonies. Sometimes people actually like to have fun, and this is America, and we like to have fun. And maybe this isn't your cup of tea. Maybe you don't like the UFC, but you know what? You made your fortune making some pretty grotesque jokes on television. And you know what? We supported those grotesque jokes. You talked about all kinds of crazy things, but you can do that in America, and we rewarded you for it. And you may not like this particular kind of sport, but you know what? Telling jokes like that, it takes a professional, and we respect professionals. And having a fight at that caliber takes the greatest professional fighters that there are, and that's what we had on the White House lawn. Maybe show a little respect to something just because you're not into it. That doesn't mean it's embarrassing. It doesn't mean it's a travesty. It was, frankly, it was awesome. And I think that you should show a little bit more respect and appreciate stuff that maybe you maybe don't like, but everybody else does.
I mean, you look at their lives, all three of those people I just showed. I mean, incredibly successful, tons of money. They make a living on The View by bashing the president. That's how they get their ratings. Larry David, look, I'm sorry. He's embarrassed now by, like you said, because he's given us some great shows on television. He has done entertainment. I will respect that. But, you know, the reaction is always so extreme. And like you said, just point it out that people want to celebrate, have fun. If fighting's not your cup of tea, it's not. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. And it was fantastic entertainment. This guy should know what fantastic entertainment is, but he can't go to his cocktail parties in Hollywood and say, that was awesome, wasn't it? No. He has to hate everything about Trump. So he's going to be asked about that. He's going to say something like that. They just repeat it like a parrot. They don't really think for themselves. That's why we use the term NPC.
You're right. Well said. Chris Kohls, got to leave it there. Have a good weekend.
Yeah. You too.
All right, coming up, why nobody watches legacy media, CBS News, airing a dog watching another dog eat a hot dog. All right, so I talked about this with Edie. I'm going to give you my take on this coming up.
When you're in the news business, it never stops. News is always breaking, and it's my job to get you the news, no spin, no BS. If you don't believe us, just watch us.
Watch Finnerty, weeknights, only on Newsmax.
You're careful about what you bring home when shopping, especially when it comes to feeding your family. Shouldn't your investments work the same way? At Timothy Plan, we offer a wide selection of mutual funds and ETFs that can help you allocate assets without compromising your values. From technology to healthcare, energy to real estate, our funds are not only diverse but uncompromising to your values. Timothy Plan funds are filtered to avoid companies involved in abortion, pornography, human trafficking, and other harmful agendas. What you invest in should reflect what you stand for. Are your investments bearing good fruit? What's in your portfolio? Contact your financial advisor today to find out, or contact Timothy Plan directly at 1-800-TIM-PLAN to discover more. Before investing, carefully consider the fund's investment objectives, risks, charges, and expenses of the investment company. This and other important information can be found in the fund's prospectus. To obtain a copy, visit timothyplan.com or call 800-846-7526. Read each prospectus carefully before investing. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal.
Summer is coming fast. Now you can get your best summer body in just one visit to Sono Bello, America's #1 cosmetic surgery specialist.
This summer, I'm excited to not be covered up.
I've got abs again. Sono Bello put me in the right spot to just feel good again.
I feel beautiful. I went from this to this in just one visit.
I feel confident.
Micro laser technology permanently removes stubborn fat, tightens and tones skin in just one visit with less downtime.
My shirts were extra large. Now I'm wearing a bathing suit. It changed my life.
There's no more frustration, just permanent results.
My stomach is gone.
Sono Bello has over 50,000 5-star reviews and expert surgeons. Call now for your personalized consultation. That's over a $250 value. Free. Easy monthly payment options make your best body more affordable than ever. Step into summer with confidence. Call Sono Bello today.
Mike Hammond of Signal Relief. We've helped nearly 700,000 feel relief in their back, shoulders, and knees with our technology. But for many of us, it's our feet that hurt. And when they hurt, our walks get shorter, activities are skipped, and the moments we love start slipping away. That's why we created the Signal Step, a patent-pending insole built using the same proven technology people already trust from Signal Relief. Signal uses no drugs. There's nothing on the market like it. It's relief without the side effects. It's reusable, fits virtually into any shoe, and in a recent study, over 85% felt relief, and it comes with a money-back guarantee. So what are you waiting for? Feel relief with every step. If you're hurting, go to signalstep.com and get relief today.
There's no way a mouthwash can prevent bad breath for 12 hours.
You're right, Bill. Mouthwash can, but this is dentist-developed Smart Mouth Activated Mouthwash.
Activated?
Yeah, if your mouthwash isn't activated, it's not Smart Mouth. See, this plus this activate for 12 hours of bad breath prevention, guaranteed. Try it. You won't have bad breath in the morning. Good night, Bill.
Get dentist-developed Smart Mouth today. It's the smarter mouthwash, available at these fine retailers.
Okay, finally tonight, another example of why no one watches the legacy media. This week, CBS Tony DeCoppel spending a minute talking about a dog watching another dog eating a hot dog, okay, at a baseball game. A dog watching another dog eating a hot dog. Wanted to say that again. This happened during Monday night's Miami Marlins game.
More tonight on the dog at Monday's Marlins game, the one who didn't get the hot dog, the one who had to watch another dog enjoy his hot dog. The Marlins had put out a wanted poster promising a dream day for that disrespected pooch.
Believe it or not, that wasn't the end of it. They actually went on to do another update on that last night. Okay, like you needed it, but here it is.
The Marlins mystery dog, the one who didn't get the hot dog, the one who watched with those sad eyes as another dog chowed down at Bark in the Park night. The Marlins put out a call for that canine, and our friends at Inside Edition found him. Here is 6-year-old Jonah and his person.
That was a crazy video. He just stared at it.
Good news, Jonah. Your person has accepted the Marlins' offer of a dream day at the ballpark.
Look, I like dogs as much as anyone. Maybe we're just lowering the bar too much.
Information. Truth. Is freedom. Is Newsmax. It's real news for real people.